My name is Layla Thompson. I'm 31 years old, living in Seattle, Washington. Most mornings start the same: coffee from the French press, soft jazz in the background, and my laptop open by 8 a.m. I'm the regional operations director for a national logistics company. Not glamorous, but I manage over a dozen team leads across 3 states. It's a lot. Still, it's mine. My apartment sits in a quiet part of Queen and Hill. I love the view. City on one side, Elliott Bay on the other. Peaceful until that Wednesday afternoon. I had just finished reviewing quarterlies and was making a second cup of coffee when my phone rang. It was my mom. "Hey, sweetheart," she said.
Her voice was calm.
Casual even. "How's everything?" "Still buried in work." I laughed lightly. Always. But I was actually looking into flights for next week. Figured I'd come a little early to help out with Marissa's wedding. Silence. Then she let out a breath. "Layla," she said slowly, "I need you to listen carefully." Something in her tone made my stomach twist. "I think it's best if you don't come to the wedding." I blinked. Wait, what? Another pause. No panic. No stammering. Like she'd practiced it. "It's just with everything going on and your sister being a little stressed, we thought maybe it's better this way."
"We?"
I asked, my voice cracking. She didn't answer that part. I tried to laugh it off. "Mom, is this a joke?" I booked time off work. I sent money for the planning. I even helped with the floral vendor list. "I know," she whispered, "and we appreciate that, but being there might make things complicated." "Complicated how?" I asked. "Because I don't post Instagram perfect selfies? Or because I'm not wearing a champagne-colored bridesmaid dress?" Still, she said nothing. I looked out the window at the skyline. The Space Needle stood tall against a pale sky, and yet in that moment, everything around me felt small. "I'm your daughter too," I said quietly. "I never said you weren't, but you just told me not to come." She sighed again. "Marissa wants the day to be simple. Please try to understand." And that was it. No fight. No apology. Just dismissal. I stood there long after the call ended, phone still in hand, heart heavy in my chest. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just stared at the mug on my desk, steam curling into the air like it had somewhere better to be. That sentence, "Don't come to the wedding," rang louder than any scream. It wasn't just a wedding I was being cut from. It was a lifetime of being told I was second place. A shadow. And for the first time, I truly felt it. Not forgotten. Erased. After that call, I couldn't stop thinking about everything leading up to it. The signs were always there, I just didn't want to see them. Growing up in Portland, Oregon, my sister Marissa was always the golden child. Tall, graceful, with that perfect smile people noticed at every family dinner. I was the quiet one. The girl who stayed up late reading, who never liked dresses, who chose a career over charm school. They said Marissa had presence. I had potential. Even at holidays, the difference was obvious. If she brought home a new boyfriend, the entire family would light up like Christmas lights.
Me?
I brought home a work laptop and leftovers. Once, on Marissa's birthday, my parents threw her a party with a cake, decorations, and custom cupcakes. For mine, a generic grocery cake and a text that said, "Hope your day's good." I brushed it off for years. Told myself it didn't matter. I had my own life, a solid career, a condo I paid off on my own, and a team of over 50 employees across multiple states. Still, no matter what I did, I was always just the other one. At dinner parties, I'd be introduced like a last-minute footnote. "And this is our older daughter, Layla. She works in operations." Or was it logistics? It hurt, but nothing stung more than the wedding planning. When Marissa got engaged, I offered to help. I even wired $4,000 to my parents for the catering deposit. They said they were tight on funds. I didn't ask for it back. They said thank you once. Over text. I wasn't asked to help plan. I wasn't asked to be a bridesmaid. But I still smiled through it. I showed up to Zoom calls. I gave suggestions. I made space for Marissa to shine. I thought maybe, just maybe, that would be enough. But then the phone call came. They didn't just forget to include me. They didn't want me there. That's what made it so sharp. So final. I wasn't the loud daughter. I wasn't the pretty one. I didn't chase attention or bring drama. But I was the one who always showed up.
Until now.
For once, I didn't reply to their group messages. I didn't ask for an explanation. Instead, I sat in my condo in Seattle, phone turned off, and let the silence say what words never could. I'm done begging to be seen. I wasn't planning to check my work email that Saturday. It was supposed to be my off weekend, something I rarely gave myself. But I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying my mom's voice, soft but sharp. Don't come to the wedding. So I sat at my desk with a half-empty mug of cold coffee and opened my inbox. Most of it was the usual: updates, scheduling conflicts, numbers to review. Then I saw a message flagged priority. A department transfer request. At first, I skimmed it like I always do, until one name made my breath catch in my throat. Ethan Hale. I read it twice. 3 times. Then stared at the screen like my eyes were lying. Ethan. My sister's fiancé. He wasn't just moving offices. He was transferring from a small private firm in Boulder, Colorado, to our Seattle branch. And not just anywhere. He was being placed directly under me, as a junior analyst. In my department, reporting to me. My name was stamped clearly on the paperwork. Regional Director Approval, Layla Monroe. I sat back in my chair, heart pounding, confused. Did he know? Had he already connected the dots? Did Marissa even realize where he was transferring? I didn't know. And honestly, I didn't care. What I did know was this. For once, the universe wasn't ignoring me. For once, life had handed me the mic, and I didn't even have to speak. I could have denied the transfer. Could have hit decline and sent his file straight back to HR. But I didn't. I clicked approve. No fireworks. No messages. No warnings. I didn't tell Marissa. I didn't tell anyone. I just sat there, staring at the screen. A small, strange smile creeping across my face for the first time in weeks. They didn't want me at the wedding. But they had no idea. The guest list had just changed. And I wasn't showing up as a sister anymore. I was walking in as something they never saw coming. Their shock. Their lesson. But I said nothing. Not yet. Let the silence build. Let the stage set itself. I didn't plan on going. Truly. Even after approving Ethan's transfer, even after everything, I told myself I was done. Done being the backup plan, the extra seat at the table, the invisible sibling no one mentioned. But then, the night before the wedding, an email came in. I was closing my laptop for the night when the subject line froze me. Formal invitation. My fingers hovered for a second before I clicked it open. It wasn't from my family. It was from Ethan. Layla. It began, I know this is last minute, but I couldn't go into tomorrow without trying. I know your family didn't send you an invitation. I know it hurts, but I also know you've always been kind, respectful, and fair to me, even before anyone else in the family gave me a chance. I'd be honored if you'd come. No pressure, but I've arranged everything. You'll be listed as a VIP guest. No one else knows yet. If you decide to show up, I'll make sure you're welcomed the way you deserve. I stared at the screen for a long time. The word VIP echoed in my mind like it didn't belong to me. Me, the one they didn't even want to show up. Me, the one my mother told to stay home because I'd make things awkward. I could have ignored it. I could have stayed home like they asked. But I didn't. The next evening, I arrived at the wedding venue 10 minutes after the reception started. No one saw me at first. The place was beautiful, of course. The kind of Pinterest-perfect wedding Marissa had dreamed about since she was 12. White roses, string lights, gold trim on everything. A guest list full of family, friends, and people who had no idea they were about to witness something unforgettable. The room dimmed slightly as a soft instrumental played. Everyone turned toward the entryway as a spotlight hit the back of the hall. Ethan walked onto the stage, holding the mic, his voice calm but loud enough to cut through the murmurs. "Tonight," he said, "before we move forward with our celebration, I want to introduce someone very important. Someone who helped me get to where I am. Someone who believed in me before anyone else did, my boss."
Gasps.
Heads turned. My heels clicked against the marble as I walked in slowly, dressed in a deep navy gown that shimmered beneath the lights. Marissa's face dropped. Her champagne flute slipped from her fingers and shattered. My parents looked stunned, mouths slightly open, eyes wide with disbelief. I didn't say a word. I didn't have to. I just kept walking toward my reserved table, marked with gold letters. VIP. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. The moment I sat down, I could feel the weight of the entire room shift. Conversation stalled. Forks paused midair. People whispered without hiding it. Some turned their heads quickly when I caught their eyes. Others just kept staring, unsure whether to be confused, impressed, or offended. But none of it fazed me. I sat calmly, sipping the sparkling water someone placed in front of me, letting the music and murmurs swirl around me like distant waves. Across the room, I saw my parents whispering furiously to Marissa, who looked like she was about to burst into tears. Ethan stood nearby, casually chatting with a colleague as if nothing had happened. If he was nervous, he didn't show it. But I knew the fire was building. And it wasn't long before it reached him. Not even 10 minutes passed before the three of them pulled Ethan aside near the edge of the dance floor. I couldn't hear the words, but I didn't need to. The anger on my mother's face, the disbelief on my father's, and the sharp gestures from Marissa said everything. They looked like a family scrambling to keep the picture perfect, but the frame was already cracked. Ethan stood his ground, arms folded, his voice calm. At one point, I saw him point over to me, then shake his head slowly, as if drawing a line in the sand. My sister's eyes followed his gaze. When she met mine, her expression twisted, not just in shock, but in betrayal. But that betrayal didn't belong to me. It belonged to her. I didn't stay long. I wasn't there to rub it in. I stood up quietly, gave a small nod to the event coordinator who had helped seat me, and left without saying a word. As I walked out, the cool night air felt like a release. I didn't need to win anything. I just needed to be seen, and I had been. By everyone. Later that night, my phone buzzed nonstop. Missed calls, voicemails, a stream of texts. Why would you do that? You made a scene on your sister's wedding day. What did you gain from humiliating us like that? But there was no anger in me. No guilt either. I turned the phone face down, poured myself a glass of wine, and watched the San Jose skyline blink softly in the distance. Let them yell. Let them panic. All I did was walk through a door they told me never to enter, and the truth did the rest. By Monday morning, the noise had died down, at least on the outside. I walked into the office just like I did every week. Coffee in hand, head down, focus on the work. No one here knew about the wedding. No one asked. And I didn't offer. The only difference was Ethan. He started that day. Same suit. Same polished shoes. Same calm face, but his eyes didn't quite meet mine at first. I greeted him like any new employee, handed him the onboarding packet, and walked him through the floor layout. If he felt awkward, he didn't show it. I respected that. We kept things professional. Quiet nods. Short updates. Just work. But I knew every step he took in this building reminded him who had opened the door. Not Marissa. Me. And I didn't need him to say it. Still, people started noticing. By the end of the week, one of my team members leaned over during lunch and whispered, "Isn't that guy your sister's new husband?" I didn't answer. I just kept eating my salad. but they were putting the pieces together. Later that week, someone made a light comment near the break room. Something like, "Must be weird having your boss at your wedding." It was meant as a joke. But Ethan, without skipping a beat, replied, "Not weird. She's the reason I'm here today." Then he walked off. I overheard it as I poured my tea. I didn't say a word, but something in me shifted. Not pride. Not revenge.
Just peace.
That sentence meant more than any apology Marissa could ever give me, because it came from someone who had seen both sides. Someone who chose respect over silence. And more than anything, someone who saw me, not as the other sister, not as a background character, but as the reason he had a job, a future, a seat at this table. The wedding was over. The noise was fading. But the truth was just getting comfortable. It didn't need a spotlight anymore. It was sitting right there in the open, in the form of a quiet employee who called me boss and meant every word of it. And that was enough for me. 3 days after Ethan's first week wrapped up, I got the message I was half expecting. Marissa, the same sister who hadn't sent a single word before her wedding. The one who watched me walk out of that venue like I didn't exist. Her text came in at 11:42 p.m., long, messy, emotional. "You planned this. Admit it. You made me look like a fool in front of everyone." I stared at the screen, unmoved. For years, I had craved any kind of attention from her. A birthday text. A "how's work?" Anything. And now, after everything, this was her first message? I didn't even flinch. My reply was short, typed slowly. "I didn't plan anything. I just accepted an invite. The one you didn't send." I didn't need to say more. She saw the truth for herself that night. And it burned. 2 days later, my parents showed up at my office. I was in the middle of a budget meeting when my assistant said, "There's a couple here asking for you." They didn't have an appointment. My stomach sank. I stepped into the lobby and there they were. My father looked uncomfortable in a tucked-in flannel shirt. My mother holding her purse tight to her chest like she was clinging to something. They didn't ask how I was. Didn't mention the wedding.
Didn't say sorry.
Instead, my dad said, "Look, let's just put this behind us." My mom added, "We were hoping you could help with the house bills again. Just until things settle." I blinked slowly. Not angry. Not emotional. Just empty. I led them to the cafe across the street. "Sit them down." And I said, "I'll help, but only if I'm added equally in the will." The words hung in the air like smoke. My dad's jaw tightened. My mom looked like I'd slapped her. "You think this is about money?" My father snapped. "No," I said calmly. "I think it's about value. And I'm done being treated like free background support." My mom tried to smooth it over, saying, "Layla, we're family." I leaned in just slightly and said, "Family isn't built on guilt. It's built on respect." I paid for their coffee, walked them to the door. No hugs. No promises. Just distance that finally felt fair. They left with nothing. Not because I wanted to hurt them, but because they finally met the version of me that didn't beg to belong. The one who stopped apologizing just to be included. Weeks passed. Not a single text from Marissa. Not a knock from my parents. Just silence. This time, not cruel or cold, but peaceful. I kept showing up to work every day, head held high, walking the same hallways where Ethan now worked just one floor below. We rarely spoke. But one morning, a card was left on my desk. No envelope. Just my name written in his neat handwriting. Inside, "Congratulations on the City Impact Award. Proud to work with you, Ethan." That was it. But it said everything. Respect. Recognition. And no need for anything more. That Friday evening, I walked out of the office as golden sunlight spilled over downtown San Francisco. I stopped by a little wine bar I used to avoid, too expensive, too empty. But this time, I walked in like I belonged there. I sat by the window, ordered a glass of Merlot, and just breathed. My phone buzzed once. It was from Aunt Diane, the only person who had ever tried to see me during the wedding madness. The text read, "You were always enough. They just didn't see it." I stared at it until my eyes blurred. Then I smiled. I didn't ruin the wedding. I didn't make a scene. I didn't plan revenge. I just walked in when invited, stood tall in a room that thought I'd stay small. I didn't raise my voice. I let the truth speak for itself. And it did. That night, I walked home through the city's soft chaos, people laughing on sidewalks, taxis honking at green lights, and a cool breeze that tugged at the hem of my blazer. Everything around me felt alive, and for once, I felt like I was part of it. Fully. Not a shadow. Not a footnote. Just Layla. Unapologetically present. Later, as I stood on my apartment balcony, I looked out at the twinkling skyline. I thought about how hard I used to work just to be seen by people who only wanted me quiet. People who invited me when they needed me, but erased me when I stood tall. Not anymore. I didn't win by fighting. I won by walking forward. By letting silence replace begging. By setting a boundary and not flinching when it held. And in the end, when my sister's new world tilted, it was my name her fiancé said with respect. Not hers. I had always been the afterthought. The quiet one. But now I stood in the spotlight and I didn't have to move aside. Because this time, I wasn't just the guest. I was the one they'd never forget.